hi to those that have just joined. Don't worry, you haven't missed anything yet. I'm just going to give everyone a couple more minutes to join and to get comfortable, and once we've got that, we'll get started. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all had a nice day so far, and thank you very much for taking the time out of your day today to join. Hopefully, you can all hear me. There should be a question section or the ability to raise a hand or the chat section. So if someone could just let me know that you can all hear me fine, then we'll get started in just a second. Thank you very much. Yes, I've been told the audio is fine, so just about to get started now. So just before we get started, you should notice that there is a question section on the right hand side. I'll probably repeat again in a second when one or two more join. But if you've got any questions or suggestions, feel free to throw them all in there. And then if we don't have time to go through them afterwards, then this evening I can collect them all and go through them. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome everyone to our first Knowledge Hour, something we've just started to do. This is our very first one. And to kick things off, we thought we'd do an introduction to Dynamics NAV 2016. My name is Nick Macon, for those that I haven't met or come across yet. It's very nice to meet you all, even through this medium. And if you've got any questions at all, feel free to use the email address ask@thenavpeople.co.uk, where you can ask us anything about NAV at all, whether you're a customer of ours or not, whether you're in our country or not. Anything about NAV, we'll be sure to get back to you about, no problem at all. If you've got any questions or feedback from today's session, good or bad, maybe especially bad, we'd love to hear from you, so feel free to get in touch. That'd be much appreciated so we can change things going forward. As I said, this is our very first one. We're going to be doing these every fortnight. So again, you've made it this far, so you saw our first Knowledge Hour topic. We're going to be doing these every fortnight. So in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be doing one on workflow. We're going to be taking a more in-depth look at standard workflow. We're going to do it today, but maybe about 10 minutes or so. But in 4 nights, we're going to take an hour to go through workflow in depth, to talk through all the features, to show a few examples. And that's going to be in 4 nights, so make sure you check that out and register. And then in a month's time, we're going to be doing one called, based on events and extensions, which is something you'll learn a little bit about today. So if we do pique your interest today, be sure to come back in a month or 2 weeks' time to find out more about some stuff we've touched on today. Again, we're going to be keeping this list updated every week. So if there's something on there that's something that you don't see on there that you'd like to see, feel free to drop us an email address on the address you've just seen, and we can make sure that we add it and put it on for you. Again, you can see on the right hand side, we're going to have, all of these sessions are going to be recorded. So for those that have to nip off after half an hour, that have to run and do something or just miss a session altogether, don't worry. You can be sure to catch up with these with your Saturday afternoon cup of coffee using the recording links, and they'll always be there on the website. So don't worry too much if you miss out on one. So to kick things off, today's session is obviously going to be an introduction into 2016. So we're going to introduce 2016 to you if you haven't seen it already. For those that haven't seen it, I will show the RTC to you all. I'll show the role tailored clients. I'll show some of the things you can do. We'll have a quick look at all the different clients, so the tablet clients, the web clients, and the phone clients. So we'll have a look at all of those before we jump into the desktop clients, where we'll be doing most of the demonstration today. Before we get that far, we're going to have a quick chat about what's been improved. There were some improvements from 2015 to 2016. So before we focus on what's new, we'll have a look at what's been improved. And then obviously it's only natural then to focus the majority of today's attention on what's new in 2016. And there were a lot. Again, this is just going to be a quick overview of each not of each different one, but of a couple of the different improvements in 2016 that we'll visit today. We'll definitely be doing more in-depth knowledge hours on each one, so be sure to check back in future weeks to see what's been going on. Before we get started, I'd just like to thank you all for joining again. It's been great to see the amount of feedback and response we've had to these knowledge hours. It's been great to see so many of you that have taken the time this Friday afternoon to join me on this little adventure through Dynamics NAV 2016. I hope you all enjoyed as much as I will. Hopefully you guys found the process of registering quite easy as well. Again, any feedback on that would be much appreciated as we try and change things going forward. After today, we're going to do a quick Q&A if we've got time dependent. Obviously, we're trying to keep these knowledge hours in an hour. We don't want to stretch over by a single second because obviously you guys are all very busy. So we're going to try and aim for these to be about 45, 50-minute sessions to allow questions afterwards. If there are no questions, great. I may stretch on for a bit, or we may let you guys get back to things earlier. So, what's been improved since the last version? So since 2015, there have been lots of improvements, mainly to the different clients. Obviously, the Windows client has been around, and that's the traditional desktop client, and that's had a lot of improvements for performance, for caching, etc. The web client probably had the most improvements made to it. From 2015 to 2016. One great resource out there is the Dynamics NAV YouTube channel. If you do go into YouTube and search for Microsoft, they have an ERP section, and in that channel they have a playlist just for Dynamics NAV, and in there Microsoft are constantly putting videos out about Dynamics NAV and about 2016 as well, which is really handy. One of them was about focusing on the different improvements in the web client. They did mention they made between 50 and 60 improvements to the web client, and you can definitely feel that if you've noticed, if you've played with the 2015 web client, you can definitely see those improvements in the 2016. It does work a lot faster, it's a lot more responsive, there's some nice features, and even for us as a company, it's one that we feel that now that we are using a lot more of. Just to highlight some of these features that we will look at today, there were the ability to add freeze panes that hopefully you guys are familiar with to the web clients. If not, we'll show this again today. The ability to hide and show columns is found in the web client now, which again is really nice. And cross-column search, again, something that's been brought into the web client. Something as well that's not actually in the Windows client, but in the web client, which again, it's really interesting. Maybe something that Microsoft are trying to encourage some users to use the web client more and more is by adding these features there. But don't worry, we'll take a look at all these features and more. Just to break this up for you as well, I'm not going to be doing full PowerPoint. I'm going to be jumping from my PowerPoint to show the area back to my PowerPoint to show the area again. So I hope that makes more sense than just running through my PowerPoint and then rushing through the software. I'll try and do as little PowerPoint as possible. I'll do as much software as possible. So with that said, there we go. There is the web client in 2016. Again, just so you guys are aware, we're basing this on the NAV People's enhanced NAV database. So there might be a few things that you guys may not recognize here, some things that you can, but all the information on that can be found on the website anyway, but we won't concentrate on that for the time being. But if there is anything you don't recognize, then feel free to, again, drop us an email and we can chat to you about that. So This is the web client that was introduced in 2016, that was improved in 2016, I should say. Just to show you some of the improvements on that. Again, from the home, you've got the ability to expand those menus out, and you've got all the menus here on the left-hand side. What's really nice as well is that you can make the interface as clean as possible by just hiding everything away and getting just a very simple user interface. Again, it's lovely to see. You're not cluttered by any actions that you may not be using. Everything's just cut down and refined. If I just move this bar here, you can also see the search menu still there on the right-hand side, and also there's that little button here on the top right, which is the ability to go into your settings and to change. Sorry, it does need refreshing if you don't use it after a while. So that's just all that is. So yeah, you just got the ability here to come into here, change settings, and to jump into different companies again, which is a feature that was introduced. But again, a really nice feature, and more importantly, to change the work dates again. It's a really nice one. We've got the ability in 2016 to do so as well. Again, here you can see you've got the burger menu, as Microsoft referred to it, so you can expand that navigation pane to bring everything out. Again, we haven't got any actions here in the top bar, so you can just press this button to expand any actions out that you may have. Hopefully you guys are familiar with the concept of the RTC, but for those that aren't, the RTC is the concept of having an interface that's defined on your role. So for example, if I'm a sales order processor, you'd only have a user interface you'd have a user interface that's been defined especially for you. So you're not looking at anybody else's actions or their pages. You're just focusing on the things you have to do day by day. That's a big concept in RTC, just for those that aren't familiar. So if I, for example, go into a customer list using the left-hand menu, again here we've got a customer list which shouldn't look too different. Again, we can just hide all these away, and once you do hide everything away, it is really nice, really cut down, very nice. So again, if I just scroll down, you can see things are just constantly refreshing. We're not going to another page, or we're not waiting too long for something to refresh. It's just constantly responding to it. So it does work a lot faster than usual, than previous versions, I should say. One really nice feature as well, one feature that I do love, is if you press search here, is the ability to cross-column search. So you may be familiar with filtering in NAV. So you'd have to select what fields, for example, name, and then responsibility center, etc., to get the filter you want. But now in the web client, you can just enter a value, for example, London, and you can see here we are filtering on name, London Light Company. We're filtering on responsibility center for these, search names, obviously for those again. But again, it's a really, really nice feature, something we've been craving for a long time. But the ability to cross-column search on the web client is, yeah, it's lovely. Interestingly, again, we can just click that to go back, but interestingly, it's something that's not been brought into the traditional desktop client yet. It'd be interesting to see whether they do or not. Again, this is just a normal list in NAV, and one thing that we can do in 2016 is right-click onto it and choose columns. So we got here all the fields, just like in the desktop clients. That if you are familiar with RTC, you can right-click onto choose columns and pick and choose the columns you want to use. Again, this would be great for if you're a role admin to define the page for your users. So again, I can just, if I wanted to, I can add a bunch of fields. Let's add these for now. And there we go, all those fields are there, yeah? That should make sense. Again, you can press this button here to view the record and go into the, for example, the customer card. Again, the customer card doesn't look too different. It's all broken down into fast tabs, and it's really nice the fact that you can, in the web client, just collapse these fast tabs down, just like you can do in the desktop client to view the information. And again, we've got these fields here, that are fields that have they've been promoted, so you can see them again. You can see that the email address for the sports maids furnishings is this, without going into the fast tab and having a look for it. It's just really nice to see those promoted fields, and they are really nice then. Again, what's really nice is the fact that if you did want to come back in, remove those columns, you can just come back, remove them, and go back to as you were. But it does work really nicely in 2016, the web client. Really happy with it. Just to show one other thing is what I do have next to show is the tablet client. If I just obviously resume this again, it hasn't been used in a while, I'll just make my screen full screen as best I can anyway to simulate that. Again, designed for the tablet, so you can download this on any tablet, whether it's iOS, Android or Windows. You can download this, and again, one of the main differences is that you've got this menu here on the left hand side. It is definitely designed for obviously for touch, so you'd be swiping up and down to view the different parts on the roll center. Yeah. Again, the burger menu is there to have a look at the items, the menu items I should say. So I can come in here and go to the item list. Again, it's really nice, a very cut down interface, definitely designed for the tablet for touch and for swiping. So again, just like the web client, we can scroll down and things automatically refresh for us. I mean, very nice as well. Doesn't take too long to load at all. If I then go onto a record by pressing this button and then edit or view, you can see here we've got the fact boxes that will be displayed on the left hand side if you have any, and then again we've got the fast tabs here. You can actually collapse the fast tabs in the 2016 tablet clients, which is really nice. Something you couldn't do in the first version of the tablet client, and then you could then therefore make use of these promoted fields that have been set for you in the desktop client. Again, it's a very nice feature. Again, all of these clients come out of the box with NAV now. So if you don't have any of these clients and you're on these versions, these can be set up for you. The last clients we had that was introduced in 2016 was the phone client. So just before we go into that, I'm just going to jump back into this. So again, we've had a quick look there just at the web client, the tablet client. I'm just about to show you the phone client in a second, and we'll spend the rest of the demo looking at the spending it in the desktop client anyway. So just to quickly introduce what was brought into 2016. The first one, again, we've mentioned a few times already, is the phone client. So Microsoft scored its hat trick, if you'll allow me to say, its hat trick of clients. First, it was the web client that was introduced in either 2013 or 2013 or 2. Can't remember for the life of me, unfortunately. And then 2015 saw the introduction of the tablet client. So 2016 saw the phone client, which we're all very excited about and very look forward to show. Workflow, again, was introduced. It was probably the biggest functional release to the application in 2016. It's obviously a buzzword when it's on to customers and users. They always have or end up having some bespoke workflow done for them in a lot of cases. So to be able to say we have workflow out of the box, it's a great thing that we can start to say now. Electronic and incoming documents, again, we've got a really nice example of this to show. And basically it's just the handling of documents that started from outside of the system. So it could be a tangible file that you receive in the post to scan that in, and how do you process that in NAV, to a electronic document sense, how do you handle those documents in NAV? We'll have a look at that as well. Deferred revenue, again, it's something that I believe was introduced in 2016, but in 2015, but in 2016 they built onto sales lines, purchase lines, etc. So then you can defer revenue over deferrals periods now, which is nice, and we'll show that later. Posting preview is a lovely one, we'll show that. We'll then spend a good amount of time talking about events and extensions. This is definitely, as you can see, we've already scheduled this in for another knowledge hour because it's a very in-depth topic and it's a very technical topic. So just today we're going to have a nice high-level overview about what they are. I'll show one or two simple examples just so you can start to understand and start to think about all the nice things you can do with this technology now. But we're going to keep it very high level. And if you are interested in anything more technical, be sure to check back in. I think it's a month's time we're doing events extensions. We'll then show Power BI later as well. So Power BI is Microsoft's business intelligence tool that you can sign up for. It's actually free to use, and then once you've signed up, you can start to create your own dashboards. You can only start to pay, I believe I'm right in saying, when you share your dashboard from one user to the next. But again, we'll show this briefly as well later, hopefully if we have time. Azure SQL was a big one that was introduced in 2016. When 2016 was roadmapped and kind of hinted towards early last year, Microsoft kind of always referred to it as cloud first, mobile first, and I think they've kind of done a lot to achieve that in 2016. So you can see that in the phone client, they've tried to make people more mobile, especially on the phone client, in improvements to the web and tablet client. They're trying to get people using the application that aren't necessarily sat at a desktop machine all the time. And they've done a lot to do that. And Azure SQL is the next step for doing that for cloud first. So just quickly, the Azure SQL allows you to have your SQL database stored in Microsoft Azure, if you're familiar with that. And you can manage your SQL database as you would manage a virtual machine that's hosted in the cloud. For us techies, the dev environments had a makeover in 2016, which we all high-fived and hugged about, and we were all very excited to see. IntelliSense was finally introduced. You had coloring in there as well to try and help the developers get a better user interface as well, and it is really nice as well now. So hopefully we do appreciate what they've done for us techies to make that CAL editor a lot better. So just quickly, before I jump back into the phone client, there's an example of it there. It's available on all platforms in 2016. So regardless of what phone you've got, whether you've got iOS, Android, or Windows Phone, you can go into your relevant app store, search for Microsoft Dynamics NAV, and you can download this application yourself. Just like the rest of the clients, it's online-only functionality. It gives you the same view to your system that you'd have on any other client, so we're not looking at any different pages here. It does have some really nice integration to your camera and location, so you can do some really nice things with it. For example, we wrote a small expense module so you can quickly submit an expense, take a photograph of a receipt, or maybe get a receipt from your local file directory, and then send that off then to be approved. So again, when you start to kind of think about the things you can do with camera and location, it does start to become very usable then. Again, you've got the same functionality, you've got the same actions, and you can do the same stuff in the phone client. You're just limited to the navigation, perhaps, maybe slightly limited to the amount of data you can see on the screen. For example, the purchase orders on the right-hand side, we're just looking at a list of purchase orders there, but obviously limited to the information you can see there. So just jumping back to the phone client now, I'm just going to go back into that. And there we go. I'm viewing this in Internet Explorer for the time being, so you'll have to excuse me for this bar on the top. But again, if we made this a little bit smaller, we'll simulate how it would behave. So again, each section was broken down into a part. So you'd swipe left and right to go back to either your menu items or through all the different parts. And again, you can go to this little button here to go to the actions. Yeah, obviously you can sign out, you can do stuff. If I show you what a customer list looks like again, so we've got this, and this is just a customer list. Microsoft have introduced this field group of type brick, I believe it's called. So then you can actually define in what sequence you want these fields to be displayed. So at the moment we're looking at customer number, customer name, contact name, I believe it is. So again, you can define what you want to see in this list, and then if we can obviously search for something here. We can search for customer. We can press this button to see all actions against the customer. So the same actions here, we can see against customer in the phone client. If I just open one up, we can see them here. Again, we don't have the collapsible fast tabs, so we can't click on general to collapse it down. But again, we can just scroll down to view all the information. Yeah, that's just so that's okay. That's the phone client that was introduced in 2016. Again, really nice addition, and really pleased with that. Jumping back, workflow. So yeah, starting to get into the nitty-gritty now, all the fun stuff. Workflow is arguably probably the biggest functional release in 2016 anyway. Of course, it's a popular requirement that a lot of people talk about, a lot of users talk about, a lot of customers end up getting bespoke workflow modules created. So it's fantastic to be able to offer this out of the box with 2016 now. Essentially, workflow allows you to connect tasks that are performed by different users at different points. So it allows organizations and businesses to work together more efficiently to streamline their processes again, which are really nice, really effective. One example is, for example, approving a purchase order. The process of someone keying in the purchase order and creating a document in NAV, they could be a completely different person than the person who's responsible for okaying that purchase order, for saying it's okay, for giving their approval before that document is posted. Yeah. So these are two different people. Their tasks need to be joined efficiently. And again, this is what Workflow allows you to do, just in layman's terms anyway. To Microsoft's credit, they've done fantastically well by providing us with a whole set of workflow templates in 2016. So using the out-of-the-box template, you can quickly create a purchase order approval workflow, sales order approval workflow, etc. We'll take a look at some of these examples in a second. Workflow events. So obviously we've got events to touch on later on, but as a workflow is triggered, that's actually an event. For example, the customer record has been changed, it will trigger an event in the application. So when that event is triggered, the workflow will take place. So that's an event, that's how the workflow is triggered. But bear in mind, these aren't just any events in the system, they are events that have only been put into the workflow events setup. So once your workflow events have been triggered, something needs to happen and needs to be responses. For example, add a record restriction, send an approval request, do nothing you can even have. So again, you can kind of have multiple things that can be done on the event of something happening. We'll take a look at these as well, just giving you a bit of an overview. And again, you can set up approval users in 2016. So you can say, because person A has sent the approval, it goes to person B, for example. And we'll take a look at this as well. And you can chain these together and have different methods. Just bear in mind, if you did want bespoke workflows, they'd often require developer customizations because you need events, etc. to do so. So just bear in mind, they aren't totally customizable from an end user. Obviously, workflow is a huge topic. We'll definitely spend, well, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be doing a knowledge hour on workflow. So if these next 10 minutes do pique your interest, feel free to drop us a message. In the time being, we can get back to you. But in 2 weeks' time, we'll be going through all this in a lot more detail. So we've got workflow templates in 2016. These do include incoming documents approval, purchase invoice, sales invoice approval, purchase order, sales order approval, customer approvals, general batch, all the usual stuff you'd expect for workflow. Again, we've got these workflow events like I mentioned before. For example, a customer record is changed. Each step, so each line in a workflow is a workflow event. So these are how the workflows are triggered, like I've just explained. We'll take a look at these in just a second. And you've got multiple workflow responses that you can have. For example, add a record restriction, which is really nice. So the record restriction was introduced in 2016 as well. And that's just when you add a record restriction, NAV now has a restricted records table. So we'll add a record in that table saying this record can't be posted until the record restriction is removed. Again, that's really nice, but it's only usable when NAV is in standard code checking for that record restriction. But again, for the examples of purchase orders, sales orders as well, it does work really nicely. Again, we can do stuff like showing a message, sending approval, setting a document status pending approval. We can do lots and lots of nice things with workflow responses. As a product in the NAV People's Enhanced NAV, we've had enhanced workflow for a long time now. And one of the nice things we have been able to do is do something, extend this workflow response to trigger a enhanced workflow. So we'll definitely be doing a topic on that later on. But again, we can extend this as well, which is really nice. Again, what happens at each workflow step? For example, just some of the stuff we mentioned then. So just finally, before we jump back into NAV, we've got these approval users, and this controls who the workflow is sent to, how it's sent, and when, which is really nice. You can send directly to the purchaser on the document, whether that's a salesperson or purchaser. You can send it directly to an approver, or you can directly to a workflow user group they define as. And again, we'll take a look at this workflow setup. Just jumping back into NAV. I'm now in the 2016 desktop client. And I'm going to go look for workflows. So at the moment, I'm looking at a list of workflows, and you can see what's really nice is that they've broken them down into these functional departments. So if I quickly look at a purchase order approval workflow, you can see it's enabled, and edit that. Just so you guys are aware, we actually created this one just before from a workflow template. So this is just an out-of-the-box workflow template we've created for. And you can see we're doing multiple things here. The first thing is on approval of a purchase document. Once that's been requested, we're going to do lots of things effectively. What's really nice is that on each workflow step, you can have it on condition. So in this case, this will only be triggered when the document type is of order and when it's open. So that makes sense, yeah? And then we've got these different responses. You might be wondering why some responses blue and some are black. The ones that are blue and have a plus on mean that there are multiple workflow responses for this workflow step, which again, is a really powerful feature. If you look at the workflow responses box on the right hand side, you can see here what the different workflow responses are against this record here. Again, if I go to this third line, I've only got one, but for the time being, let's go to this add record restriction and have a look at it. So here we're doing 4 things. So when an approval of purchase documents is requested, 4 things happening. We're adding a record restriction. We're setting the document status to pending approval. Yeah. And we're creating a approver entry and sending it to an approver. And then you can see here, as you click on that, you can have options for a selected response. And this is where, in this case, on creating an approval request, you need to define who is the approval request going to. We'll have a look at that. And the last thing we do is we send that approval request that we just defined above, and we create a notification. So just talking about this approval user setup, you can see here what's nice that you can delegate. So you can say after a certain amount of time, delegate to someone else. In this case, we're not. And you can set the due date as well. And you can kind of say, who do you want to send it to? In this case, we're going to approver and direct approver. We'll talk about the other types in the next knowledge hour. Okay, again, so we've got this concept here of this approval users. So we've got a few users defined here, and you can see that for each one, for example, on node.demo, you define who their approvals will be sent to. So it's a one-on-one relationship. You can't say if node.demo sends a sales order, send it to Nick.Meakin, but if they send a purchaser, send it to John.Roberts. It's a one-to-one, so NORAs will always go to me. What's important is that the final person in a chain, if you are doing a chain, has to have unlimited sales and unlimited purchase amounts, which are what these fields are. But again, here you can set emails, etc. You can, by adding users and approvers, you can chain these together. That'll work. That will, if you send an approval request, will go all the way up to the top chain. But one really nice feature in 2016 and in this whole approval user setup is this little action here. So you can press this and preview, and this will give you a preview of what the workflow will do, who it will go to. It shouldn't take too long, and there we go. So you can see it's going to go from node.demo to Nick.Meakin, Nick.Meakin to no one, because I'm the last person in the chain. Notice that I've got to be set to unlimited approvals, otherwise it'll give you an error. So I'm set to unlimited approvals. Just if I log into this web client here, I'm actually logged in as node.demo in this web client. So I'm just going to quickly go to purchase order. I'm very quickly just going to create a new one, just so you can see how it looks, what it looks like when you approve it. I'm trying to enter a quick line. I'm going to add one item to it, and then I'm going to use the send approval request button. An approval request has been sent, and then in a second I'll approve this. Just copy that number for now. So that's the approval users. I hope that makes sense. It's a nice feature in 2016. And again, just one thing I missed before is that these are the different workflow events in the system. So you can do lots of things out of the box. For example, when an item record is changed, do something. So it's definitely one thing that's worth looking at are all the videos on the YouTube channel I mentioned before. And also by having a look at the workflow templates, you can see yourself how you should structure these workflows. So if I come back into NAV, find myself going to purchase orders, just to save time, I'll search for it. Workflow approval entries can be sent to people as well. So they can be notified either by a day, instantly, weekly, or monthly. Again, I'm just going to do it now for the time being, and then I can hit that approve button. And unfortunately, I didn't enter a quantity. So if I enter a quantity, again, that was just my mistake. I didn't enter a quantity. So again, it's been released. So what do you do then? If a quantity was there, you just hit approve and then it'd be gone. Unfortunately, I forgot to enter quantity, so sorry about that. But again, we'll come to that. We'll show that next time anyway. So that's approvals. The next one I wanted to show is incoming document management, which again, it's a really nice feature in 2016 that's been introduced. And the concept behind it is that obviously you have some documents that, or some transactions that aren't recorded in NAV from the outset. Instead, like the external documents that come into the organization, for example, as in email attachment or a paper copy that we then scan in. So they need to be able to handle these documents. Instead of keying them in automatically, keying them in manually, you can't make mistakes, be time consuming, etc. We can use this feature to create them for us. If I'm going to jump into NAV and go to incoming documents, and then what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to say create from file. So I'm going to navigate to a file that I want to create a incoming document for. I've got this purchase, I've got an invoice here, which is a PDF file. And again, it's gone and created this record for us, yeah? So nothing's happened at the time being. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to send it to the OCR service. So there is an OCR service that you can use free of charge. You can register, and you can use one that allows you, I think it's up to 70 or 75 transactions a month. I think you can use it for free. But if obviously you're using it in a real scenario, you'd have to pay for it. In a few seconds, we'll be able to press the receive from OCR service once you give it a sec. You can see at the moment the document has been set to released and the OCR status is sent. There we go, I gave it just enough time and now the document has been successfully received back. You can see here this financial information has just been populated. So what's done, it's read the invoice PDF file we sent to the OCR and it's brought it back into this incoming document. At the moment we haven't created a purchase invoice in NAV yet, we'll do that in a sec. But this is at the time where you go in, press this correct OCR, and then you can come in here and you can make any changes that it may have incorrectly put in. Again, you can use this send OCR feedback to what Microsoft calls to train your OCR. For the time being, everything looks fine to me. So I'm going to press OK and press create document. Again, it said purchase invoice 1105 was created. And again, there's the link for it there. There it is. There's the one document. It's created, posted to a GL of the amount from the invoice. And hopefully that makes some sense. It's definitely worth looking at. And there are plenty of examples online for that. But again, it really is a nice feature. But just quickly, oh, that just jumped behind. Sorry about that. Thankfully, you weren't too far ahead. So yeah, again, OCR integration, which is really nice. It allows you to create NAV records from the information. It uses header information only to create that record, and it can be automated by a workflow. The next thing to show is deferred revenue. Again, it's a very nice feature that was introduced. Basically, it allows you to distribute or defer revenue over specified amount of accounting periods. These are set from a predefined schedule or deferral template. This deferral code that you can set has been added to sales lines, purchase lines, etc. So let's quickly, because I know we're running out of time, just jump over to deferral templates. And here we've got an example of 6 months. So let's have a look at that. And you can see here we've got a 6-month deferral template. And you can see here you point it to a deferral account. And then you can see what percentage of your deferral do you want to defer. Do you want to defer 50%, 75, whatever? You can specify the calculation method. In this case, you can use straight lines, it's fine. And then you can specify what date in the record do you want to use as your start date for the deferral. In this case, we use posting dates, but there are a few there. End of period, beginning of next period, etc. You can specify how many periods you want to defer over. In this case, we use 6. And then we use a period description. And then this we'll be able to see this in a minute once we post the documents. So I'm just going to go to sales invoices. Just like Blue Peter one I prepared earlier, ironically in the blue location code as well. And there we go, we've got one sales invoice here, which has got one line on it for one bicycle. This time I did put a quantity in there, and here we've got the deferral code. So again, this field that I've mentioned before has been added to, and you'll see it by default in purchase lines, sales lines, etc. I'm just going to go in here, I'm going to select my deferral template, which we just had a look at. And there we go. If I want to now, I can post a document. Those postings will change depending on, well, because of that deferral template, and it'll post using the settings we defined there. One thing I do want to show as well, to want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I want to show the posting preview function that was introduced as well. Hopefully everyone's aware of the navigate function. That's been in NAV for a long time, allows you to, from a posted document, view the transactions that were created because of this. So when you post a sales invoice, it lets you view the GL entries, etc. And then this posting preview allows you to do this, but obviously before the document was posted, which is a really nice one. It should please all you finance folk. They can actually see what's going to happen before you actually do it. Again, it's a really nice one. So you can see there in this posting tab, you'll find this preview posting button in any document that can be posted. So I'm just going to quickly press that and press yeah. Ignore that for the time being. And then we can see there we've got multiple entries, more entries that would be usually be created. And then we've got there multiple months to be created for us. So hopefully that should make some sense with the whole deferral templates and posting preview. But there are two nice features that were introduced in 2016. So we've gone through that. That's the exact example we've shown. And yeah, that posting preview allows you to view the impact of the documents before doing so. And available on every document that can be posted in the system. You'll find it in that Actions tab and in that posting section by default. So Power BI is Microsoft's business intelligence tool. Hopefully you guys have seen it, but again, Microsoft have been focusing and talking about it a lot recently. It's got integration with Dynamics NAV, which is really nice. So you can connect to it without writing any third-party customizations or writing any connections between the two. It just has integration built into it. That built-in integration is thankfully all down to a new content pack that was introduced at the same time 2016 was. So what you do, you can go into Power BI, create a new dashboard and connect it to a service. There's a Microsoft Dynamics NAV service there. Once you select that service, you pass it an OData URL, which for example could be a sales dashboard, which is made up from several queries. Once you pass that in, you'll get a dashboard like I've got here on the right hand side, which lets you view the opportunities pipeline, the profitability map, and the sales this month, etc. Again, it's a very nice tool from Microsoft. It's actually free to go in there and create your own dashboards. I think I'm right in saying that it's only you only pay for it once you start to share your dashboards between users. Again, for the whole mobile first, cloud first, you can access it from phone client, tablet client, etc. If you go to your relevant app store, you can go and download it there. Again, this is that content pack I just mentioned before. You can see there it's got NAV there. So for the rest of the next 10 minutes, I'm going to talk about events and extensions. So if you won't be offended if people leave at this point if it gets a bit too technical. Again, it's going to be a very high level overview, so I'm going to keep it very basic as I can. But events basically, again, probably one of the most biggest introductions to 2016 to the platform itself. We'll introduce these briefly today, but we're doing another knowledge hour in a month's time on them, so be sure if you're interested to check them out then. They effectively allow you to call code without modifying the object where the code is placed, which is really nice. Effectively, this allows you to separate bespoke code, which is code that developers or yourselves write, against the standard code that Microsoft writes. So it's a clear difference between the two. This in itself has got lots of different advantages. It lets you keep your database as unmodified as possible, well, those standard objects as unmodified as possible. It allows you to be able to more easily be able to keep your NAV application updated to the latest version without worried about all these objects that have been modified previously. This is just an example from a pre-2016 code unit. So this is something that traditionally we would have done as developers. If we want to do something in mid posting on the purchase post, for example, we'd go into the code unit and then right where we want our code to be called, we'll go and do something. But thanks to 2016, instead of going and changing that modified object, because that object is now modified, if Microsoft released a cumulative update, then we'd have to go and merge the two objects then to make sure we don't clash anything, and we make sure we have Microsoft's modification in there as well. Just as well, I did mention the cumulative updates, just something that Microsoft are releasing one every month to make bug fixes, to make improvements to the system. Again, something that's going to keep everyone updating the systems a lot better. I think since 2016 has been introduced, we're already on CU4, and I think we're due CU5 any day, so that's really, really good. And now in 2016, we can have something like this, where in a bespoke unit, code unit, for example, the 50,000 range, we can do our clever code without modifying that same object. Yeah, hope that makes sense. All we're doing there, we are subscribing, which is the keyword, subscribing to this record and doing something. And we'll take a look at this now. I'm just going to quickly show you this. Okay, so here I've got one code unit. I've got a standard code unit, release sales document. And if I go into this, you can see that at the very bottom on line 71, we've got on after release sales document. So this is an event. So this is on after release sales document. It's an event listener. It's going to be doing something. If we go to the bottom, by the way, Microsoft have put these in lots of places so they are checking for these things to happen. If we go to the bottom, you can see here on after release sales document is an integration event, which means that's waiting for something to happen. If I go to globals, if I quickly check this out, you can see that it's a publisher, so it's publishing that the events we are waiting for the event to happen, basically. And there are two types: integration or business. 99.999% of events at the moment are integration. I haven't seen a business one. Even the ones Microsoft have provided are integration. So there's our event in that code unit. It means that if I have a change in this code unit, we are, for example, if I come into this code, if I go into this function here and have a look at its properties, you can see here we are subscribing, so we are listening to that same code unit and that function. So we are linking the two functions together. So as soon as that function is called in the standard code unit, our code in this bespoke code unit will be triggered. So I hope that makes sense. So here all we're doing is saying if sales line number equals 1000, message this item's on promotion. So if I quickly come into a sales order, enter a customer number, good old Canon group, then if I enter a sales line, nothing's happened yet, but obviously we've done it on release. So if I then release this document, I'm just going to quickly turn this workflow off. Again, we'll do another knowledge out on the whole enhanced workflow process. Again, if I quickly turn that off, then I might have to reopen that document. Yep. That's our item. There we go. There's our message from that code unit when the event was triggered. So bicycle is on promotion. Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense. But again, that's just one example. So you might be thinking, what happens when Microsoft haven't put a line here? When does our code be triggered? And that's a good question. And one of the answers to that is that as a whole, Microsoft have introduced events to the application as a whole. So here we're going to do another publish another event. If I go to my function and show you the properties behind that, you can see here we're subscribing to the table itself. So I'm not subscribing to a code unit and then linking it to a function, which is a event publisher. I'm actually subscribing to a table itself. I can then decide what publisher element or field on the table I want to subscribe to, and then Microsoft have very kindly provided us with lots of things we can subscribe to here. So I can say every time the number on the sales line is validated, we're going to do something, and that's what we're going to do here. So this is another way that we can trigger events when Microsoft haven't put these lines of code to trigger them themselves. So again here, we're just going to do something very similar as a demonstration. If the number is 1001, message this is on promotion again. So let's go try that out, see if that works. Again, I'm going to go back into sales orders, and then good old Canon group again, who are always overbalanced. There we go. So that item, again, it's on promotion. So here we're writing bespoke code, but we're not touching a standard object at all. We're not touching while making a change to a standard object, we're leaving that database as unmodified as possible. So I hope that makes sense. Hope if that doesn't make sense, then feel free to read all the blogs and MSDN articles on there. There's some really nice examples on YouTube as well. But again, we'll be covering all this in Knowledge Hour in a month's time anyway. Just quickly, extensions allow you to publish a whole set of modifications to NAV, but without modifying the objects. That may sound a little bit confusing. I promise it's not. These changes are then applied at runtime. For example, you can create or add, for example, 5 fields to the purchase order card without modifying the purchase order in a live database. You develop the extension in a development database, publish the extension, install it onto a live database, and even though you won't see those fields in the object designer and the object won't be modified, the changes will be applied. Again, you can create and manage these extensions through either the Dynamics NAV administration shell or through PowerShell ISE. So again, if you're familiar with PowerShell, this should make a lot of sense to you. And there are plenty of examples of this as well online. Just about briefly how it works, the base will be our standard object, our object provided by Microsoft that hasn't been touched. We can then go and modify that base in a development database, add some fields to it, for example. We can use the AMU, the application merge utility, or PowerShell, for example, to go and create our delta. The delta is just the difference between the two files, the difference between the standard and the modified. And then using PowerShell, we can go and build our extension. It's built in a few parts, primarily a manifest, which contains, for example, a description like enhanced workflow by the NAV people is an extension. And then the NavX file is the file that applies the database, and that holds the changes that are applied at runtime. Again, there are just a few examples of the lines in PowerShell they can use to publish and then install your NAV application. Just to show you one example very quickly, we have this here from one of our enhancements is the enhanced information fact box. Again, this is a bespoke fact box which we've delivered as an extension. So then if I go to the sales order page, for example, if I go to the fact boxes, we don't have enhanced information fact box here. Again, this is an unmodified object in this sense. We haven't added the enhanced information fact box to this page, but we can still see it's here. It does take some getting used to, but means that these changes that we deliver as an extension are applied at runtime. It really is powerful. It means that we can keep our database as modification free as possible, just to make upgrades and maintenance a lot easier going forward. So I hope that makes sense. But again, we'll be covering these in more detail later on. Just as a final point, Azure SQL was introduced in 2015. Again, one of Microsoft's aims to go cloud first, mobile first is Azure SQL. Hopefully you're familiar with Azure, and again, you can have virtual machines and services hosted in Microsoft's cloud management system. Azure SQL allows you to host your SQL databases there. So again, this just means that Microsoft will take care of the redundancies, the maintenance, and obviously a lot of the upfront costs as well. It doesn't mean you have to get X amount of servers into a server room like you would have done traditionally, then hire someone to look after them. They will do all that for you. Again, it's a really, really good, really interesting way of hosting your SQL database there. Now, just wrapping things up, today we've introduced 2016. I hope that's made a lot of sense. I hope that's piqued your interests. We've had a quick look at what's improved, and then we've covered all those topics from the start, just about in time anyway. Now, I just want to thank you all for joining me this afternoon. I hope that made sense. Again, this is our very first Knowledge Hour, so we'd appreciate any feedback at all. If you do have any feedback, then you can either leave some in the question sections now. Any that I don't have time to answer, I'll get sent to me anyway, so I can answer them later on. But if you do have any other questions, then please don't hesitate in emailing ask@thenavpeople.co.uk at any time. But thank you all for joining me anyway this Friday afternoon. I'm going to jump back to the questions quickly for a minute or two. Great. So far we haven't had any questions, but thank you very much for the feedback so far. Again, please don't hesitating emailing us. Sorry, one question there. Do you have any free service for OCR? Ourselves as a company, we do have an OCR module. If you're interested in it, feel free to drop us an email. We can talk to you about it. It may be worth having a look at that incoming documents again. They do provide some free. I think it's 70 or 75 invoices free. So maybe worth checking out that. But if you do want to know more, feel free to drop us an email and we can talk to you about that. No problem at all. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up for today. I'll let you all get back on the rest of your day, and hopefully you all have a nice weekend. So thank you very, very much for joining today. Enjoy your weekend, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Be sure to register for our next knowledge hour, which is on standard workflow. So thank you very, very much, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.